Yo, what is going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at Destiny 2 TWAB this week at Bungie, October 13th, 2022. Happy TWAB's Day, Guardians. This week we are back with a hefty TWAB, including some weapons and economy changes mentioned last week. So sit tight because we are going to be passing out the mic to a few different teams to chat with us all today. Trick or treat, we also wanted to call out a reminder that Festival of the Lost is starting next week. Our social channels will have the trailer Thursday morning or Tuesday morning, but before we share all the candy and goodies, we wanted to share our newest costumes. Wait a second, this is Destiny we're talking about. Ornaments. National Coming Out Day, LGBTQ, Destination Materials Update. All right, Guardians, it's time to discuss the changes of the destination materials. So let's hand the mic over to design lead Josh Kulinski. Hey, Guardians, Josh Kulinski here again to talk about all about the destination materials. You know, all these dust-like shards, helium filaments, microphasic data lattices that you've been sitting in your inventory for years. Well, we've taken a lot of time to evaluate their place within the Destiny 2 and decided that Season 19, these items will say goodbye. Thank you. But why we have made that change, and what does it mean for you to explore the various destinations in Destiny 2? Well, read on and you'll find out. Starting Season 19, players will no longer be able to obtain the following items: dust-like shards, microphasic data lattice, helium filaments, barium bows, spin metal leaves, and glacial stalwart. The key word here is obtain. Unlike previous currencies we have removed from the game, these materials will be fully depricted, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but more on that in a bit. A simpler economy. First and foremost, we have to talk about the decide to make this change. After all, these materials have been part of the DNA of Destiny since the very beginning. The simplest answer is that Destiny has grown to become a much more complex game than it started as all these years ago. One of the major goals that we have in the economy team that Destiny 2 is making for the game more approachable to new and returning players. One way that we can help this by reducing the number of currencies that players need to understand to keep track of. This helps us reduce the cognitive load of Destiny's economy places on the player. With fewer currencies to manage, it'll be easier for players to learn and remember the value of items that they have in their inventories. Removing these materials also benefits players by freeing up inventory space and making it easier to find items they're looking for. Times they are exchanging. First thing, many of you probably asking as you read this, what about the material exchange? And I'll let you know, it's not going away. Master Rahul will continue to provide those services, and the Spider once did. There will be some changes as mentioned earlier. These materials will be fully depricted as we have done with this destination materials in the past. Instead, Rahul will continue to accept any destination materials that you have stored up over the years, although we'll see them exchanged at a lower rate than had previously. Rahul will no longer sell destination materials to players. Starting Season 19, Rahul will now exchange 5,000 Glimmer for a stack of 20 destination materials. If players have less than 20 material in their inventory, Rahul will exchange 250 Glimmer for individual material offered up by a player. Once Season 19 begins, this will be the only use for destination materials moving forward, so you can safely exchange all your materials and free up inventory space. However, there are some new items that Master Rahul has found interest in. Starting in Season 19, players can exchange excess dark fragments, phantasmal fragments, Heroways pieces, and Rahul exchange for a Glimmer. Finally, the cost of exchanging legendary shards for Glimmer remains unchanged. Enhancement Prism Ascended Shard cost will destination material costs removed and replaced with legendary shards costs. So yeah, public service. Now that you know about these changes, the material exchange, you are probably thinking, well, there goes the easiest way to get Glimmer. And that's not lost on us. To offset this, we want to take opportunity to breathe new life in the part of Destiny 2 gameplay loop that maybe doesn't get too much attention as used to. public events. Season 19 public events will be getting a glimmer boost, especially on the heroic versions. So the next time you see Fallen mining for glimmer and EDZ, take a moment to hop off your sparrow and help your fellow guardians take home some of the sweet shimmering glimmer for yourselves. When completing heroic public events, players can expect to earn between 10k and 12k glimmer. When completing normal public events, you can earn 3,300 to 4,645 glimmer. These are raw numbers without glimmer boosting mods or bonuses enabled. The price of change. As mentioned earlier, the only use for destination materials will be Rahul's material exchange, blah blah blah. Exotic weapons, at the moment of loss, will see some updates. In this case, legacy exotic weapons, the destination materials cost will be replaced by legendary shard costs. Raid exotics such as Anarchy, Turbo will see no change to their current costs. Okay. Other items you saw in the destination materials as part of the purchase cost, such as upgrade modules, enhancement prisms, ascendant shards, will simply see the destination material cost removed entirely with no further changes to their current price points. In the world without destination materials, there are a few ghost mods that need to be addressed. You guys can read through that. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I'm living in a material world, and I'm a material guardian. The primary source of destination materials has always been a resource node scattered across the various destinations of Destiny. Those resource nodes aren't going anywhere, and it's still very players' best interest to collect any of the nodes on your journeys. As many players noticed with the release of Witch Queen, the deposits of fundamental osmium found in Savathun's throne world did not grant currency, but instead delivered glimmer XP reputation directly to the player. Though we will not be creating a new reputation system for the previous destination vendors such as Devrim, Spellsafe, Petra, and others at the time, we will be working to improve these experiences. So that's basically about the reputation for stuff. There's just mosquitoes out here. Finally, we'll be removing the sale of sunset weapons from both vendors when the season goes live. This is largely to prevent players from wasting resources on weapons that cannot be upgraded to the current level cap. Alright, there's your sunset weapons. Destiny Brazil has entered the chat. As mentioned in the beginning of the TWAB, we are passing the mic to Potato, a bunch of teams, and community manager Bruno to say, this could also be a week at Brazil. We launched the social media channels in Brazil Tuesday, so this is all your Brazilian news over here, guys. Yeah, you guys can read that if you want. We got mid-season weapon tunings. Last week, we had a nice chat with the weapons team covering a wide array of weapon questions. They also touched on some plans for weapon tuning coming to mid-season patch next week. Associate designer Mercules is back at it again with more detail on what and why the weapon changes are coming to 6.2.5. One note before we started, when we say ease of use, we usually mean one or a combination of the following things: stability, aim assist, recoil control, body shot time to kill, TTK, optimal time to kill crit percentage. Requiring a weapon requires 100% critical shots to achieve optimal TTK is a lower ease of use, and a weapon requiring 50% critical shot to get optimal is a higher ease of use. We have seen the questions and asked what you want to address it up front in the new season in the future. You can have better idea of what we're looking at when we want to address these ease of use certain weapons of the balance purposes. All rifles see strong usage in most PvP activities around 25%, but drops around 13% in in-game PvP, etc. Trials of Osiris. We hear suggestions that we should decrease the TTK or increase the range of auto rifles, but we investigated those options and found that the very minor changes to either, they can quickly become oppressive across PvP sandboxes. As it stands, several high-impact 360 RPM and precision 450 RPM auto rifles are already capable of outranging hand cannons, and at least one adaptive frame cannon as well. And we do not want them to wholeheartedly compete with pulse rifles at 40 meters ranges. And in addition, even a single bullet reduction in TTK places many auto rifles subfamilies into the best in class lethality. As such, we have decided to lean more heavily into increasing the ease of use and making them feel better to shoot within their optimal ranges. Within the substantial buff to stability, although the change is not only to the high end of the curve, the change affects all stat values above 0 and increasing effects as you get higher to the stat values. Precision frame auto rifles significantly have languished in the Uriel's gift meta of the early Destiny 2, and because they are inherently so stable, they did not benefit much from this change outlined above. As such, we slightly brought their critical hit multiplier up to increase their critical hit damage, which combined to the body shot damage buff from last season puts them in a much stronger position without greatly lowering the optimal TTK. Alright, we basically went through all that. Increase effects of stability, stats on recoil reduction by 20% at the high end. Increase the critical damage multiplier from 1.5 to 1.55. Critical damage goes from 30 to 31. I mean, I guess. Bows. Increase bow stow duration. Thank you. Are these things getting nerfed? Before 0 to 100 handling stat. Lightweight frame 0.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds. Precision frame 0.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds after 0 to 100 handling stat. Lightweight 0.45 seconds to 0.3 seconds. Precision 0.48 seconds to 0.33 seconds. Pulse rifles. Pulse rifles are strong in the current sandbox, both due to the reduced dominance of the other mid to long range weapons and availability of multiple easy acquirable, craftable, strong options, and the addition a few balances passes back. We buffed their range in moderate amount, but in current sandboxes we feel no longer they need help across the board. And such, we have removed the range bonus at the low end while retaining at the high end and continuing rewarding those who spec into range without giving the same advantage to those who do not. We also felt that there was not enough difference in the feel of the weapon handling across pulse rifles family, so we rebalanced the stat to decrease the effects slightly in low end and raise them at the high end. Adaptive 390 RPM pulse rifles have not been favored since the bygone era, and we believe this change will be enough to increase their strength and relative to other pulse rifles without pushing them into a meta territory. As a rapid fire frame 140 RPM or 540 RPMs pulse rifles, peace of mind and band zoom that allows it to compete at longer ranges would be expected for the subfamily and will be the only first multiple zoom outliers that will be looking to bring them in line over the next season. Rebalance the effect of handling stat across pulse rifles, handling stats effects, weapons ready stow and aim down sight speeds. Increase effects of handling by 5% at the high end, most effects lightweight and adaptive frame pulse rifles, so like the Bad Juju maybe. Reduce effects by handling by 2% at the low end, mostly affects high impact rapid fire frame pulse rifles. Adjusted the damage fall off scale based on the range stat. 0 range reduced from 16 millimeters to 15. 100 range unchanged. Adaptive frame pulse rifles increase the precision multiplier from 1.6 to 1.65. Crit damage goes from 30.4 to 31.4. This allows the weapon to kill guardians below tier 4 resilience with 6 crits, 2 bursts, and 0.60 seconds. Rapid fire frame pulse rifles, peace of mind, base zoom reduced 19 to 18. When we buffed the high impact 150 scout rifles last season, our main goal was to get them up to the floor by reducing how punishing hitting body shots was. We overbuffed them a bit, going so far to making the optimal TTK more forgiving against low resistance as well. This has made them slightly too easy to use for the weapon with functionality at unlimited range. The below change to the damage will take their optimal TTK back to requiring 3 crits across all resilient values while retaining the change to body shot TTK from previous balance pass. Reduce body damage from 42 to 40. Crit damage from 73.5 to 70. Wow, those got a big nerf. Sidearms have substantially less auto aim range compared to damage range. A decision made many moons ago with removal of auto rifle fall off bonus, Rangefinder felt sidearms seemed to be lacking in engagement distance, particularly on mouse and keyboard. And such, this change could bring them up to near parity with other weapons' auto aim to damage fall off ratios. For comparison's sake, sidearms with Rangefinder should feel about the same after this change, and they do in the game now. But the sidearms without rangefinders should feel notably better. Increased auto aim fall off distance 30% across the board. As mentioned above, some outliers in the precision frame 600 RPM subfamily of SMGs have outband zoom values to the point they can overstep the effective ranges of some auto rifles. These outliers have made it difficult to justify tuning precision frames overall. At the same time, their 0.80 seconds optimal TTK makes them feel weak against other SMGs, forcing them to rely on their effective range and damage boosting perks in order to compete. Lightweight frame SMGs currently overlap too much adaptive frames, so we're making a very small change to help alternate them. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I got lost. General, reduce damage fall off in the distance at which the damage dealt by the weapon in hip fire reaches its lowest point. Aiming down sights extends this distance by a factor of the zoom from 24 to 23 meters across the board. Precision frame SMGs increase base damage from 16 to 17. Crit damage goes from 22.4 to 23.8. Reduce the zoom of Shura's Wrath Adept and Friction Fire from 16 to 15. Lightweight frame SMGs reduce the base damage from 11 to 10.85, crit damage from 18.2 to 17.9. Precision frame fusion rifles have seen an uptick in usage since the buff. We allow them to kill in 5 bolts, reduce the effective intrinsic precision frame perk that recoil direction by 50% of fusion rifles only. Glaives reduce shield damage to resistance for versus players from 75% to 50%. Thank you. Damage from player supers unchanged to 50%. Damage from non-players unchanged at 97%. So I was already hearing about the snipers. Increase the settle time after receiving flinch by 60%. Reduce receive flinch in PvE. Now this has a sufficient play test time. We're making similar changes to linear fusion rifles in Season 19. Trace rifles. Increase the effective stability stat on recoil reduction at the low end of the stat by 10%. At the high end of the stat by 25%. Rocket launchers. Increase the blast radius by 0.4 across the board. Gunshot, okay, now perks. Gunshot straight and remove audio from activation. We've had multiple reports that audio was triggering frequently enough to be annoying, so we had to remove the audio cue from the activation. Rangefinder has long been one of the flat-out strongest perks in the game across the archetypes and weapons, due to effective zoom and improving multiple aspects of the weapon performance, combined with the fact that the neutral activator, it does not require getting a kill and dealing damage to activate. This bonus increasing auto rifle fall off distance by 20% puts the perk in a league of its own in terms of power, as it massively increases ease of use of certain weapon types, well beyond even increased engagement range provided by the zoom, and it makes it difficult for any other perks to compete without substantial power creep. As such, we made a decision to retain the zoom bonus but remove the auto aim fall off bonus. We expect the perk to remain top choice, but it will be less dominant compared to other options. Remove the additional 20% bonus on aim assistance fall off. Exotics, Jade Rabbit, here we go. Jade Rabbit has a unique stat package compared to almost all other high impact scout rifles in the game. It has massively high aim assist and stability. The aim assist puts the weapon's ease of use well above what we find to be acceptable for the weapon with nearly unlimited range and fast optimal TTK. Now the high impact scout rifles are performing comparatively better than they have been in the past. The time has come. Bring the Rabbit, more in line with the upper end scout rifles in this subfamily. Reduce aim assistance by 20. Whew. You're going to have better aim, guys, when you're using that gun now. Lord of Wolves. When we nerfed Lord of Wolves in PvP, we mentioned that it was the first part of the larger rework that we're planning for the weapons aimed at competitive PvE. Right now, the release of Wolves perk reduces the accuracy by substantial amount, with the intention would be useless against small targets. Blah blah blah. This could often leave accuracy by 70%. It should be inaccurate though when using release the wolves in PvP. Against Guardians will not be affected, but will make it much easier to constantly hit crits on big targets in PvE without needing to be on the right next to him. Reduce ADS accuracy penalty to 10 to 3 times. Remove 25% universal base damage buff. Added 40% PvE damage buff. Remove 50% critical hit multiplier penalty. Added full auto as an intrinsic perk. No time to explain. This gun has been dominant in PvP for the last season, topping trials usage and the kill charge week in and week out. However, we had to be careful with tuning this weapon because its dominance is not universal. This weapon sees over twice the usage and dramatically higher effectiveness on mouse and keyboard than it does controller. For example, on mouse and keyboard, no time to explain makes up 29.9% of the pulse rifle usage in PvP, and it accounts for 31% of pulse rifle kills. That's insane, bro. It's like, okay, you guys are using this gun. This is how toxic the community is. They're gonna take advantage of the most broken gun when there's over 1,000 guns in the game, and they're like almost half of the community is going to be using the no time to explain on PC. That's actually mind-boggling. With mouse and keyboard having higher stability, accuracy, and auto aim, 2 bursts from NTT are much easier to achieve than in that sandbox. So now we needed to tune it into difference was noticeable on mouse and keyboard, but did not ruin genuine feel of the controller. At the same time, we also wanted skilled players to continue to be able to use the weapon effectively, while lowering the overall ease to make it more difficult to perform well with the weapon. Reduce the recoil direction stat from 90 to 73. Reduce the aim assistance from 45 to 40. Wrist Runner, I mean, it didn't get hit that hard. Wrist Runner is a very niche weapon with a very niche strength, but 50% damage resistance in PvP with the perk active is far out of band from what we would like neutrally triggered damage resistant options to exist. We have reduced it down to 15%, which is still among the highest damage resistant options available. They've nerfed this thing bad, while at the same time making it a less of a free win option versus other players who are using arc weapons. Reduced damage resistant versus players from arc superconductor active from 50% to 15%. Wow, you guys are gonna nerf one of my favorite guns? Really? Future items. In addition to the items mentioned in last week's TWAB, we wanted to make a few more things we're looking forward to tuning in the next season. Auto aim, reduction, flinching, tuning, special ammo, linear fusion rifles, Lawrence Rival and Arbalist, machine gun balancing, make sure the better heavy option in PvP, make them a better heavy option in PvP, reduce the difference between them and other heavy weapons in PvE, make them less punishing to use for ad clearing, remove damage penalty to Dead Man's Tail at 5 stacks of cranial spike. Woo! Alright guys, if you guys need help, there's the help center. If you're having any problems with Destiny 2, logging in, anything like that. Then we got the next Tuesday, October 18th, Destiny 2 Update 6.2.5 will be released. View our Destiny server and update status page for maintenance times, as well as the timeline below. All times are Pacific. 9 a.m. Destiny 2 maintenance begins. 9:45 Destiny 2 is brought offline. 10 a.m. Destiny 2 Update will begin rolling out across all platforms and regions. 11 a.m. Destiny 2 maintenance completes. There's some known issues. Players can sometimes die transporting into the Nightmare Realm and Duality Dungeon. The Duality introductory quest doesn't count Master Mode as completion for the quest objective. Gry Falcon's Halberg Exotic Hunter chest piece has been disabled. The Dawn Chorus Exotic Warlock helmet does not appear in collections. The Cry Mutiny Heavy Grenade Launcher incorrectly appears in a special grenade launcher and collection. Some players are now unable to place relics on pirate hideouts in the helm and have to use alternate characters. Movie of the week. It ain't me. I'm gonna tell you that. Destiny 2 lore got a jar. Artist of the week. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Bunch of different like pirate theme stuff. Who's that? Eris Morn? Thorn Girl. Okay. Some pride stuff, guys. There we have it, Guardians. This week's TWAB, we know it was a lot of info to share all at once, so please feel free to sound off on socials, and if you have questions you may have. We are also learning adjusting our communication methods, so we appreciate your time when responding to us with that kind of information. Okay, it's time to get back out there. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll see you guys in the next week with our favorite mask for Festival of the Lost. Stay crafty, Stam. And that is your TWAB, guys. Alright, so basically a lot of weapon changes are coming. Scout rifles are getting nerfed, especially the Jade Rabbit. Pulse rifles are getting a little mini nerf. Some are getting a little buff, I guess. Sidearms. They didn't really talk much about hand cannons. I think hand cannons are in a good place right now. Look at, they didn't even talk about hand cannons. Look at, they went rocket launchers, trace rifles, sniper rifles, glaives, fusion rifles. So sniper rifles will have more flinch when you're shooting. When somebody's shooting at you. Wow, that's just insane, guys. Yeah, so if you guys enjoy this video, please make sure you subscribe. Leave a bell, press the bell notification to stay updated. A lot of changes coming in for Destiny 2. Probably for the better, not for the worse. Alright guys, peace out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.